Our Careers Now mentorship session. My name is Nicole Gallace and I'm joined here by Erika and Lola. The session today is focused on entrepreneurs in the food and beverage industry, and I'm so excited to have you guys join us today. We really appreciate you joining. We can't do what we're trying to do, which is talk about careers in the industry, inspire the next generation to explore opportunities in food and beverage Ontario without people like yourself willing to join these types of things. So thank you. And I will pass things over to Erika. Maybe Erika, you can just kind of share your story, how you started out in the food and beverage industry. And I have a bunch of questions. I won't interrupt you, but I will certainly, and then Lola will go to you, and then we'll just chat. And I have a lot of questions that people have asked, and we have questions in the comments as well that hopefully we'll get to as well. So Erika, over to you.
Yeah, so thanks for coming, everyone, and thanks for having me on. My name's Erika. I'm the Chief Everything Officer and founder at Brodo, which is a edible cookie dough company based out of Toronto, Ontario. We're available in about 100 stores, as well as direct-to-consumer. We sell across Canada. It is a lower in sugar, functional snack, kind of like a hybrid between a protein bar and edible cookie dough. And I guess I'll give you a little bit of history about me and my background and how I kind of got in this space. It's kind of random, but I pursued my degree at Laurier. I got a BA in psychology. Was kind of going down that path, wanted to actually be a psychiatrist at one point. Graduated, was thinking about getting my master's in psychology and realized how expensive and how long of a path that would be if I continued going down it. So decided to hold off on that and work. So I worked at a bakery. I worked doing personal training and was really into fitness. And then I also worked at a university doing research, making minimum wage, wasn't happy, was a 9-to-5 cubicle desk job. And at that job, I would listen to podcasts about entrepreneurship, which kind of got, I guess, the seed planted in my head about entrepreneurship. Had enough of all of those jobs, quit all of them, booked a trip to Southeast Asia for 3.5 months. I thought it would help me find myself. I was about 23 at the time. And it did. It really did help. I met entrepreneurs from all over the world doing all different types of things, pursuing all different industries. I met a law school dropout who was buying properties and flipping them in Thailand. I met someone from the UK who had a moving company and was a high school dropout. And it really opened my eyes to that lifestyle and showed me that you really don't need a business degree. You don't need to come from a family of entrepreneurs to be an entrepreneur. You really don't need anything. You just need the will to learn and the motivation and discipline to learn. So I got home, I sat down with myself. I had piece of paper in front of me, pros and cons of working a 9-to-5 and pros and cons of building your own business. And I decided to go the business route. And food is something I've always been extremely passionate about better for you foods. 2018, I competed in bodybuilding, and a lot of my favorite treats I could no longer eat. So I recreated them in my kitchen. One of them was cookie dough. And people were very interested in purchasing a lot of the things I made because I would share them on social media. So fast forward to the end of 2019, and I decided to package and brand my cookie dough as Brodo. Built it direct to consumer throughout the pandemic, spent pretty much no money on marketing, blew up on TikTok, built a community of almost 300,000 people now across all social platforms. And then now we're hitting the ground running with retail expansion and launching a crowdfunding campaign next month. So I guess that's everything in a nutshell.
That's amazing. Congratulations. I do have a lot of questions for you, but Lola, maybe we can go over to you now and learn a little bit about you. And I will add that we have Paul joining probably closer to 10:30. So if our viewers see Paul join, that's what's happening. Life of an entrepreneur. He was meant to be here at 10 with us, but has a few things to attend to. So he will be joining us shortly. So Lola, over to you.
All right, so just give me 1 second. I think I lost my screen. I can't find you guys. Oh my God, technology. Anyway, I'll just...
A tech department to come in.
Right? Can you guys see me?
We can, yes.
You can hear me. Okay, I'll just go with the flow. So hi everyone. I'm excited to be here and with Erika, and hopefully, I'm excited to meet. I think you said Paul, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I started this journey kind of like as a fluke, like many entrepreneurs as well. I was working in tech. I had established my career as a tech woman in tech. I still work in tech on the side, actually. um, but I was getting to a point in my life where I felt like I wanted more. And all through the time when I'd been in tech, I'd always like want to share my African culture. I would make albums of African music and share with my colleagues. I would make food when we had potlucks. I would make jollof rice, plantains, because I always wanted to share that part of me. And I felt like it was so exciting. And the joy I would see from people's face and that gratification I got from like, oh my God, this is amazing, always brought joy to me. I felt like sharing that part of me that people hadn't experienced before was so satisfying. And I got to a point in my life where I felt like I'd gotten to a point in my career where I hadn't got into my peak in tech, but I was really successful. I was working with the city of Toronto on large projects and I was doing well, but I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I was not feeling challenged. And I felt like I wanted to fill a void. And I felt, okay, entrepreneurship could be the route, but the reason why I say I started it as a fluke is because food wasn't my first idea. I just wanted to fill a gap in the market using something that has to do with my African experience. And so I started with different ideas. I would show it to my husband. I would say, oh, should I do something that has to do with like, I love African prints. Maybe I can do gym wear because I felt gym wear was so boring and they were like neon-y colors or like really bright pink when it came to women's wear. And I felt like African prints were very like artistic and vibrant as well, which I've now even transcended to my packaging because that's kind of the idea of how my packaging as well came up. But I'll park different ideas. But when the idea for food came, it was like, oh my God, there's a gap in the food industry, the food and beverage industry for African inspired food. Africa is one of the largest continents, if not the largest, and it's pretty much non-existent in the food space. If you ask yourself, when I go to my grocery store, my local grocery store, I would see some Asian, I would see some Indian, but do you ever see African? No. And if you do see African, it's made by somebody who isn't African, just labeling it as African. So I felt that there was a huge gap, and Africa is so diverse, so multi, like the food space in Africa is so amazing. And I felt like a lot of the reasons why it's not as developed is because obviously Africa is a developing continent and Nigeria specifically is a developing country. And a lot of Africans who have settled here are usually maybe moving as first generation. They're still trying to build their wealth. I'm still trying to build my wealth. I don't have a network. I didn't go to high school here. I don't know anyone really, right? So it's a huge risk for a lot of us to start entrepreneurship or start a business. So that's probably part of why a lot of people hadn't started a food business, or if they do, they just open up a restaurant, but it wasn't packaged. And so when my coworkers would say, I'd love to make this at home. How can I make this sauce you made? I couldn't direct them on how to do it because there's so many steps and layers to making African food. And the ingredients you would get are from like African or Afro-Caribbean stores. And they're not even the finished product, they're the ingredients. And it was just so many steps. And so when the idea for it super came, it was a light bulb moment. I was like, oh my God, there is a gap and I can fill that gap. But little did I know it's going to be such a crazy, crazy journey because food is complex. IT is basically 1 + 1 is 2. You code it, you know, it usually comes out with a few tweaks, but food has been one of the most complex, complicated, layered experiences that I've had, but it's also been one of the most exciting experiences of my life. And so that's how it super started. And now we sell nationally across Canada via our website, but we're a local brand still, selling in Whole Foods, Sobeys, and some other independent stores. And we're gradually growing and learning as we grow.
That's awesome. Your stories are so unique and inspiring, and interesting, to hear. There's always something that triggers, and whether it's like in the middle of the night, you've got this idea and you wake up and it won't leave you alone, and you just know you have to do something with it. I think that's so inspiring. Erika, I guess you can go first. How brave exactly do you need to be to become an entrepreneur on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say more so naive. Like, I feel like you have to like not know a lot. Like, I feel like if I knew everything that I know now, I maybe wouldn't pursue this industry. Just not to discourage anyone. But brave. I don't know. I wasn't very brave when I started. I would say I was like a 5. But I was like very determined because I wanted to try something new. And I think when the passion is there, you just kind of get over it. And then you just like learn and evolve as a person as your business evolves.
Yeah. Lola, what do you think? Did you think you were brave before you started?
I would say, like Erika said, naive. To me, it was just like, oh, it's food. I'm going to start it. Everybody's going to love it. Everybody's going to buy it. You think everybody's going to be excited as your brand as you are. So I would say being ignorant and naive made me seem brave.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that ignorance is bliss, right? If you don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I started FoodGrads 6 years ago, so not in the industry, but a different focus. And I would liken it to when you have a baby. Like, you can read 10 books about having a baby, and we all have babies. Like, look, women have babies, and yet, if we knew, you can be told something over and over and over, but until you've actually done it, it's like, okay, no one told me what sleep deprivation actually felt like, because I had to go through it to experience it. So, and it's not, when you're an entrepreneur, it is your baby. It's you care so much and feel everything. So, Lola, do you have mentors? Do you have people in your life that you do consider mentors?
Yes, I do. And I'll give an example of how important mentors are, especially when you're like first generation or immigrant, where you don't have that family dynamic that can push you and encourage you either financially or with sweat equity or whatever. Mentors are the ones who can say, you can do it. I've done this before. This is the path to take. And an example is when I actually started, I was actually going to give up. In fact, I was getting to a point, I went through a cohort program. And because I knew nothing about the food industry, and I thought, okay, let me learn a little bit about it. And actually, after taking that program, I was actually going to quit, because I was like, everybody there was like vegan this, gluten-free this, like, very non-African sounding. And I felt intimidated. I felt like, who's going to like my, African food? And I felt like out of place. I was the only Black person there. I was like, it seemed like I was alone. And we had a 1-hour session. This program was like a 3-month like cohort or whatever. And I think it was called Food Starter or something, right? They're now I think they're now Venture Park, whatever, but it was Food Starter at the time.
Yeah.
It was a great program, but I left that program feeling unsure, right? And we had a 1-hour session with a mentor. And that 1-hour session changed the trajectory of like what I was going to do. So imagine 3 months of teaching, learning about like food and food science and all that. And I was actually going to quit until I had a 1-hour session with a mentor. And he said, oh my God, I love your branding. I love the name of your product. I love this. Oh, it's exciting. Like, you should do this. And gave me ideas, connected me with some people, connected me with like a design, like all those things that I didn't have a network, just that 1-hour session, and him believing in me, somebody who isn't my husband or my cousin or whatever, believing in me, somebody who's an expert in the industry, that changed my life, right? So that's how important mentors are. And unfortunately for me, and I would say that's one great thing that Erika has done really well at the start of her business. She networked on LinkedIn. I can't overemphasize how important LinkedIn is. I just had a LinkedIn account, but in the food space, LinkedIn has really helped in the last year that I've gotten more active. But when I started in 2019, like just before the pandemic started. I didn't really have a network. I didn't even know LinkedIn was a thing, right? So I wish I had been the mentors that I've met now on LinkedIn. I wish I had them like the first year I started, because that would have really, really gone a long way to help me. And some of the mistakes I made, I wouldn't have.
Erika, you want to comment?
Yeah, just like echoing all of that. I think me and Lola started our companies around the same time. Like I launched in December 2019, and I didn't use LinkedIn until probably like mid to late 2020. And I just like, if I had networked sooner, it would have accelerated my company way quicker. I would have learned how to scale quicker. There just would have been so much more value added to me. And I wish I wasn't so stubborn at the beginning. And similar to Lola, there were points where I literally want to give up so bad. Because I think we go into this thing like entrepreneurship or whatever. And I remember hitting publish on my Shopify website and like eagerly waiting. And I'm like, oh yeah, all the orders are going to be coming in. And then like getting nothing. And the orders I get is like friends and family. And then I tell my friends and family, I'm like, yeah, it's called Brodo. And they're like, oh, we Googled it. We can't find it. It's like not on the first Google page, not on the second one, not on the third one. And I'm like, what's SEO? I don't know what that is. So there's all of these pieces that are just like so foreign to us, like when we go into something and we think it's going to come easy to us, but this, like, in reality, this industry is really hard. Every industry is really hard and has its challenges, and it's really important to like surround yourself with people who are at your level and who get your struggles, and you can kind of go to and like bounce ideas off of one another, but then also have people who are substantially further than you and have done what you're looking to do, and it'll save you time, money, headaches, because they've done it before. And that advice is like priceless. It'll save your business. So I can't like advocate for having mentors enough. It's so essential.
I think when you and I met, Erika, I said this, it's a very humbling experience that you know what you're good at and you think you can rely on that. And then you get into this crazy world of starting a business and you really learn fast I mean, it's not even what you're not good at. It's potentially what you don't enjoy doing, the pieces that you don't enjoy, and they're important too. And when you're in a larger organization, you have a department for that. Like you mentioned tech. I'm awful with technology. So I was used to having support there. And then all of a sudden I'm the technology department, I'm the finance department, and all these areas that I'm like, oh, give me the sales and marketing over, that side of the business. But you need all of those pieces to make the business move forward. So I sympathize 1,000%. Lola, what would you say was the best piece of advice if you could think of one thing that you were told from one of your mentors?
I would say best piece of advice. When I first started going to pitch to stores, I would get like a wrinkling nose, like I don't know, and I would get into my car and like just like bawl out, like, oh my God, this is so hard. And he said, Lola, it's nothing personal. Don't take it personal. They have different reasons why they're saying no, and no doesn't mean no forever. It could just mean no, not right now, right? So I think it's just having, when you're starting up in the food industry, you need to have tough skin and not take things personal. And that really helped me, because when, like Erika said, you're a chief everything officer. That's what I am as well. Like, you're the one doing the sales, you're the one doing the marketing, you're the one doing everything. And so you have a lot on your plate. And when you're pitching to stores or pitching to a buyer and they say no to you, it doesn't mean that your brand isn't great. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the work you should. It just means that it's maybe not a fit, and and don't take that personal. So I would say at the beginning, I really needed to hear that, because it's really hard to get no's, and you will get a lot of no's.
Yeah, I hear you. We've got some questions coming in. Riley asked, are there places I can go to learn more about working in the food and beverage manufacturing industry in general? I mean, you mentioned LinkedIn. Do you have any other ideas? We can talk more about LinkedIn, but yeah. Erika, you want to go for that one?
Yeah, I always plug, like, I love them, Startup CPG. So if you go to their website and you join their Slack community, I think they're almost at 10,000 members now, and they have a bunch of threads. And if you have a question about anything CPG related, post it in there, and there will be like a bunch of people on it, and they're willing to like hop on a call with you and help you any way they can. So that's like a really good resource. Another one, it used to be called the Forum for Women Entrepreneurs. Now it's called just the Forum, I think. It's not all CPG, but there are a lot of CPG women in there. Like that's another great resource too. Like I took an e-series program by them. I would say those are the two big ones. And then going on LinkedIn and like finding people in your space and like reaching out to them and asking for, you know, like 20 minutes of their time. And most are willing to do it.
Yeah. Lola, is there a resource you can think of?
Yeah, same thing. The only other one I will add is finding how you can get on like programs. If like, you know, there's a Careers Now program, a FoodGrads program, or like White Space also has a food program that's really good that you can, because for me, it's not just about education, it's the network. White Space has a food program where I've met some really cool entrepreneurs as well in the industry, and a lot of them are in the same phase that I am, or a little further ahead or a little behind, and we're all able to help each other and encourage each other. So it's not just about your education, it's about the network. And sometimes when you speak to mentors or you speak to people who are so far ahead, they can't really get some of your pain because they already passed that stage. Sometimes it's also good to network with people that are also at the same phase as you. They're in the same, going through the same pains and have sometimes figured it out. And so you can easily get a quick answer from your peers. So I would say White Space food program is also great.
That's good. That's great advice. If you were to do it all over again, is there anything you would change? Whoever wants to go for that one. Anything you'd do differently or change?
I mean, I would have a co-founder if I could go back in time. Someone who does what I don't enjoy doing. Like I do not enjoy operations and I'm not very good at it. I'm not very good with numbers, which sucks when you have a business. I'm very good at marketing, branding, storytelling. So having someone to complement my skill set, I think would have been very helpful. And then asking for help sooner. Like I went over a year, like in my business without really asking for help. And I kind of hit a wall and I got so burnt out because I really didn't know what I was doing. And I could take it to a certain point, and then I didn't know how to like take it from here to here. So I think kind of like not having an ego and asking for help and like being okay with like looking stupid or whatever, because everyone has to learn at the beginning, right? You have to start from somewhere. So I think definitely those things.
That's so true. I think ego is a big one. You know, we're proud and we don't want to ask for help. It's tough. And, you know, even working in a team now, I work in a team environment now. We talk all the time about how we all have different strengths. You know, I talk to my kids about, my kids have taken after me. They're not so good at math and science, and they're better at the English and the, you know, those types of subjects, and more creative. And I always say to them, you know, it's not that you're stupid or, you know, that your brain works differently, your mind works differently, and you need all those different skill sets to form a team. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're everything, and it's hard, really hard on yourself.
You have to be a genius in areas that are not areas of strength. I don't like numbers, but numbers are so important for a small business, right? I'm not good with numbers, like, you know, so you know, things like that, accounting and like areas that are not my areas of strength. Like I really, really wish I had a co-founder, just like Erika said, because I see those who have co-founders and I see them like, you know, there are areas that I'm just like, oh God, I wish I could just hand this over to somebody else that isn't an employee that I have to pay for them to do it. I wish it was somebody who has an equal invested interest in the growth of this brand, right? So it's really hard when everything is on your shoulders. And the days when you're weak, your co-founder is most likely strong and able to encourage you. But the days when you're weak, you have to get up whether you like it or not, because it's just you. So just, piggybacking on what Erika said. But another thing that I would change or I would do differently, I would say is, even though I felt like I was like making the right choices, or like, not running, I was practically crawling, and I'm still like maybe now walking. I'm not pacing myself at the pace of others or comparing too much. It's hard not to compare, but you still want to run at your own pace. But I think there's still, even when I was moving slowly, there's still mistakes that I made, like MOQs. Oh, because this is like, you have to have a minimum order and print like 3,000 prints so that you can save 20 cents per print. But you end up wasting money because you change your logo design, or you change something, because when you first started, things will change. Maybe you didn't print the trend translation correctly. There are things that you feel like, okay, you're going to be this penny wise, pound foolish, right? So MOQs will get you, and you think you're going to save money, but please don't make that mistake, because I have labels in my garage that I refuse to throw away because I feel like it's cash I'm throwing away. But I don't use those labels anymore because my packaging changed within not too long after. But when I was printing those units of labels, I thought, oh, I'm going to have this label forever. Like I didn't realize, right? So I'll say those are those things that even if the printer says, oh no, you save, $200 if you print 10,000 units, do not do that. Print 100 units, even if it costs you more, because you will definitely make those mistakes. There'll be an error in the print. There'll be something that you want to change. And you don't want to like waste money on all those little things. It may seem very minute, but there are things that a lot of us like waste the money on printing, on doing unnecessary like printing of things that are not important.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, a waste of money that you really need to be small.
That's awesome. You mentioned earlier about how busy, I think everybody can understand how busy being an entrepreneur is. I guess the question I want to ask you is, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with organizing yourself? How do you deal with burnout, or preventing burnout? Because you both mentioned neither one of you have a partner. So if you're gone for the day, the couple of days, need a holiday, and I asked this kind of, have been in your shoes in the past. How do you deal with that? Erika, maybe you want to go first.
So I've been burnt out like probably twice since I started my business. And I think I've started doing therapy and like practicing mindfulness, and doing yoga, and just like really knowing when I'm pushing myself too hard and then pulling back when I need it. So like, for example, I have non-negotiables now. So every Sunday, like I don't work, or try not to. Like I try not to touch my phone. I turn off my notifications. I get out in nature. Like I go for a walk or a hike or whatever, spend time with friends or family. Because I think that's super important, is just unplugging. Like I used to work like all the way through the weekend, and I would feel really guilty if I didn't, like if I took a day off, I was like, oh my God, my business is gonna like die without me. And like all my competitors are going to get so far ahead of me. Or like, I just felt like, it was doing more harm than good if I took a day off. But then I realized you take those days to recharge. And then when you come back on the Monday, you can put in like 100% in that day, rather than like working 100% of the time at 50%, So I think just like getting in touch with yourself, knowing when you're pushing yourself too hard, taking care of yourself, like exercising, eating the right foods, like all of that is like really important. And like health is like a huge priority. And if you don't take care of yourself, you're pretty much screwed if you get sick or if you get burnt out, because who's going to take care of the business? And then rather than like one day of like missing out on work, you're going to miss weeks. So I think like looking at it that way and like using this as like preventative measures as well. And you'll feel good too in the process of taking care of yourself.
So true. Lola, you want to go next? And then Paul, we'll go to you. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Paul.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, it's I honestly sometimes I don't know how I manage it because I'm on mute. You can't hear me?
I can hear you.
I
I can
can
hear you.
okay. Sorry, I thought he said he couldn't hear me. So for me, it's just trying to balance everything. And like Erica said, like for example, just last week, I just came back from Mexico on Sunday. And while I was there, I took my laptop. I was like, I'm gonna catch up on work. I'm gonna like do all this stuff. And after a while, I said, and I was feeling guilty because I wasn't catching up on work because I was enjoying myself. I was having fun. And after a while, I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like I have to just do what I need to do and just relax. And they say in my language, wahala no they finish. Wahala no they finish means problems never end. So even if you keep trying and there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something you have to deal with. So enjoy the moment, relax, let your body, your mind, your mental state just relax and stop feeling guilty because that guilt bad feeling. It's negative. And so
Mhm.
we can't help it, especially as entrepreneurs, to feel guilty sometimes if you're not doing what you feel you need to do. But you need to like just enjoy that moment, take those breaks, read a book. I love podcasts. I love to listen to podcasts of people who've built their businesses and all that because you know that you're not alone in the journey and the feelings that you have are not isolated. They're similar to what other people feel. And so, and also have venting sessions with my other co-founder, like founder friends. We just have a call and vent. And then when you're able to vent, you're like, oh, okay, I feel good. So venting sessions are not bad. Just vent, share, and then have somebody encourage you as well. Like, oh, like, okay, after you vent, then think about a solution together. And it helps, right? So venting sessions are like going to a boxing match.
Therapy.
Yes.
Paul, thank you for joining us. How's your tech? Are you good?
Yeah, I think we're
Yeah.
good now. It kept switching to my Bluetooth. My Bluetooth wasn't working, so we're just on microphone. We're good.
Awesome. You sound professional with your microphone.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our viewers, that would be great. We've obviously heard from Erika and Lola, about their businesses and a few of the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We would love to hear your story, and then I'll carry on going through the questions that we have, if that's okay.
Yeah, for sure. So my name's Paul Owl. I'm the creator of TreeTeas Brewing. And what we do is we create infused cedar teas. So when I got my start about 6 years ago, I was already a chef. I was, just doing festivals. I really didn't like working in the kitchen for someone else. I've always been an entrepreneur, and it's been a challenge, right? So it's like, you know what? I want to cook on my own terms. I want to do my own thing. And so I just started doing festivals where I can really engage with people. The whole entertainment aspect of cooking, where they can see me doing pan flips, opening my smoker, seeing what's in there. And I really love that stuff. And I was getting a lot of caterings, and I love doing those because, it's one-off event. It's quick, it goes by, and then you got time for yourself, right? Where, kitchen life, you live there, you live there, you eat there, you don't get out of there. And it's hard on families. And I had a young family at the time, so I was really conscious of that. And, and so I started a company called Rescue Smokery. And we had an idea of cooking foods that were stuffed, wrapped, rolled, and smoked. And it had a component of that all the way through. And so our caterings were doing that. And we did this one where they wanted us to do moose. And I said, well, okay, it's maple season. We'll do moose braised in maple sap. And if you can imagine, as that sap's cooking down, just like the normal process of making syrup, but this time we got that moose roast in there and our seasonings. It's creating this nice sauce, nice sticky sauce, and it was good. And I needed something to complement that. And when I do caterings, I absolutely do not like serving pop or these high sugar juices. And so I was like, I'm going to create something that's represents me. My culture and my take on food, which is lots of infusions from different regions of the world. So I created this cedar wildberry chai tea, blueberry, blackberry, strawberry, raspberry, cinnamon, star anise, cardamom, clove, black peppercorn. And that was, chai was something that I was, when I was a young kid, we used to rip up the chai tea bags, throw them in our pie mix, and we would make chai apple pie. And so I really pulled on that. And, we served it. The first one I made for this catering event, it was extravagant. I had the spices were floating on top. People can see it. And it was really, really big, bold flavor. And people loved it. And I'm like, okay, like the feedback I'm getting, the stories I'm getting, I said, I really got something here. So I had to scale it back a bit for cost wise so that I can make something that was profitable. And I can, sell it at a wholesale and still be successful instead of just living the retail life. So I toned it down. I created something that was more like an iced tea, and I did a test run of it at a festival that I was emceeing. So I do a lot of speaking as well too. So I'm lucky on that side. So I had the microphone with me all day, and talking about the culture and powwow. And then I had my opportunity to introduce these teas. I brewed 4 cases in 500 ml mason jars, sold out in minutes. But it's not the fact that we sold out in minutes. I had the microphone. People knew me. They knew about my food, so they all wanted to try this, right? It was the stories that they're coming back to me with. And it was when people were telling me about, when I was growing up, we always had cedar tea boiling on a stove. It didn't matter whose house you went to. Friends are always boiling cedar, or friends' families were always boiling cedar on the stove. And so those stories were coming back. And then people were telling me about, when they had, the grandparents did cedar mint and these other mixtures and stuff like that. And so when I was done that day, I was like, okay, I got something here. I hit it. I saw, okay, I got to create a name. So I was like, the tea comes from a tree. So I was like, TreeTeas, play on words for Indigenous people, and then I have that whole entertainment. I can talk on things, and it's a great opener, right? When you start talking to people about it. And so I bought a 40 quart pot, and then I bought a 60 quart pot. Then I bought a 100 quart pot, and I'm like, okay, 100 quarts is about where I can go max in my own house. And so that first summer we brewed about 1,000 cases, sold them, just going festival. We would go to like places like Six Nations, and we would hit up their buy and sell, and we would drive all over that community all night long, delivering to houses. And we really, put a big push on marketing it. And I did that for a few years. I was trying to figure out how to, buy my own canning machinery and get into that canning process. And that became my biggest challenge and sort of a setback for me, because I was, you get tired after, sitting in, that steam and boiling those pots up. And, I could do about 3 in a day max. I can do 300 quarts in a day, because it's about a, 9 to 10 hour process of doing that. And okay, I got to look at equipment, start doing research. And, quickly it's like, to do a micro brewery with that process, you're looking at about $150,000 startup. And I'm like, okay, like, that's a big jump. That's a big risk for me, and I knew I had a business, but I wasn't totally sure that, I could keep up with that. And, there's lots of different things I didn't know about in the industry, when you're going into retail stores and about labeling and stuff like that. So I was kind of reserved on it. I just kept doing my own thing. I was ready to invest, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, oh my God, like another setback. So I was just, delivering to people's houses, and then COVID ended. I got brought to do a festival down here in Ottawa. And one day my buddy goes, Paul, I've always loved your product. I love what you're doing. He goes, I have someone that you need to meet. And he's got a factory, a production facility, and they got all the canning equipment. They do this water right now. It's high alkaline, tastes beautiful. And I want to introduce you to him. So he introduced me to him. We started talking. They tried what I was making, and they loved it. And it was like, okay, and they wanted to partner with me, do a co-packing and really help me out. So, okay. So I was like, this is my process. He goes, no, that's not how we do things here. I'm like, okay. He's like, you got to take your flavor, your drink, and bring it down to a syrup so that we can, dose it into each can. Cause we don't do the high pressure pasteurization on the spot. He goes, that's how our equipment works. I'm like, okay. So we were like, figuring out this syrup, we were boiling it down, we were reducing, and it was such a long process, and it came right down to the wire for being able to hit production for June 21st this year. We finally figured it out. And it was like, it was a big relief. We got to a flavor that we liked. It represented, my original drink. And so we produced it, and it was still scary at that point because we only did 5,000 cans, but it's like, okay, I tasted it, is it really going to still be there? And when I got that first can, I seen the beautiful artwork. This is our drink here. We got this beautiful artwork, and I took that first drink, and I'm like, okay, I felt so satisfied that weekend. We sold probably about half of our product. the next week I went and hit a few stores and we were sold out that first 5,000 cans. Now we're waiting for the next production. We're going to go 20,000. And then it's like, okay, cans take 6 weeks. You're in summer, it's a high production time. It's going to be a little bit. So, okay, get this. Then it was like, okay, producing enough syrups, because we were getting the syrups and creating our infusions was, another challenge, and I'm starting to find out that now if I go over 20,000, I can't really keep up because they can't keep up with me and what I'm producing. So now I had to go to another company that can produce my flavors, but in high quantities. And so it's scary that I'm going farther and farther from where I was of just boiling, right? I feel like, am I going to lose touch with my flavors in that and what I created? And, but these businesses, that's what they do. They take your flavor and they build it for you. So it's consistent and it's done every time. And it's done in a facility that's, nothing's ever going to go wrong. And so we started that process. And now through that process, we can get to a drink that's actually 0 sugar. So now when we look like, exporting our products to Israel, which is one of the toughest markets to go into. And it's crazy that I even have that opportunity, only being 25,000 cans in. They found us through the embassy, the Israeli embassy, through what I do here in Ottawa. And for there, it's like, okay, the amount of sugar, the type of sugar, they get taxed differently. So they were asking about a 0 sugar option, and we were able to find it. And so now we're doing the flavoring on that. And now we got to, redo our nutritional labeling, which is a small part of the game now that we know how to do it. And we have the opportunity to produce, 0 sugars that are drinks that are going to be exported, in large quantities to another country. And that's mind blowing from, where I was in May thinking, I'm not going to hit this mark. I'm not going to be able to produce this drink. And then, and here we are, the opportunities are there. And so right now, the last 20,000 that we did, they don't have nutritional labels and barcodes and stuff like that, because they're still more of a festival drink. We do have those coming in the next cans, and that's super exciting because right now I've just been focusing on First Nations. I've been from Thunder Bay to Quebec, Southern Ontario, and it's just me. I'm out there hustling. I'm building the territory so that I can have be in a place where I have a position for people to work, and it's built for them, and I'm creating, jobs, and that's really exciting. Once nutritional labeling comes in, all of a sudden now I can, expand all over Ottawa. I can expand all over Toronto, and I can hit mom and pop shops. I can hit, the restaurants that really want to have us in there because we're that non-alcoholic alternative that's become a big industry as well too.
Yeah.
And right now is really exciting, and it's scary. It's exciting, and when we talk about burnout, which I came into, that's a big thing, like I did 1 week where I did 6,000 kilometers in 7 days. I taught culinary course here in Ottawa, and I just needed time for myself because otherwise, I'm going to hit that wall and I'm not going to be able to, keep working.
Yeah.
So, finding that balance in a startup and not worrying about things like if I'm not out there, it's not going to happen. At the end of the day, people want my product. I know they do, and they're going to wait for it. When it gets there, they're so happy when it does. And I've built that relationship, and I got 1 more store added to the list. I got 10 more stores added to the list, and I have that opportunity, and I'm starting to build my, my roots and stuff like that. And, it's all one step closer to, your dream, and right now, next year,
your passion for what you're doing is like engaging, you can see how excited you are and how, it's definitely inspiring. I appreciate it. But you mentioned hiring people, and that's a great segue to talk a little bit about, who's your first hire. Like I know you're all 3 of you have relatively young businesses. Erika, who have you hired, so far? And who was your first hire?
So it was a student. He just graduated. He was with me for 9 weeks, and he got hired at a big CPG company. So being a startup, it's really hard hiring because you don't really have the capital to hire talent or keep talent. So the turnover rate's going to be really high, and you have to expect that. You're going to hire people, train them, they're going to go. You're going to hire people, train them, they're going to go. And there's different things that you can implement to incentivize or keep people long term. Like you could have like a placement, and then when the placement's up, be like, okay, well, if you want to stay, if you're happy and we're happy, then we can look at a salary, and then we can look at like incremental pay increases. Or like there are certain founders that offer equity, so they don't give like 20% off the bat, but they'll be like, okay, you'll get 0.5% here, and then when you hit here, then we'll give you more half. So they're like more invested, right? But yeah, I had, again, like when you hire someone, you hire them to do multiple things. They're kind of wearing multiple hats, and there are certain people who can work for startups, and there are certain people who cannot. There are people that want to have the 9 to 5, they want the structure, they don't want to work weekends. Whereas when you have a startup, it's like, okay, there's a fire on a Saturday morning and I need you to like come in and help me put it out. Or there's like things that just pop up, and it's kind of this like unstructured type of life. And you kind of need someone to like hop in the boat with you and see the vision, and you have to make them really believe in the brand. Obviously, they're not going to like love the business and care about the business as much as you do. But I think hiring the person is more important than the skill set, because you need to have someone who is really down to do the hard things, and they can learn things too. So I think I made the mistake too, like in the past, thinking that I needed to hire for the skills, not the person. And now I kind of do the other way around. I hire the person. And I just hired actually another employee to replace the one that I lost, and he started yesterday. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm kind of just delegating a lot of things that I don't need to be doing, like social media and posting and the things that, you know, like founders and CEOs, like we shouldn't be spending our time doing that. So
Lola, what about you? Do you have employees?
Yeah, so I hired a student first as well, because but obviously the turnover is going to be high because she was my first summer intern and she was really good. She was smart, but she got another internship, and that's just the way it goes, because you can't afford to pay for people who have done MBAs or have 10 years of experience, which is what you need. So there's a compromise. You have to train them, but then you know that you're going to lose them. But that's what internship is also all about. And another plus for hiring students is sometimes you're able to get money back as well from the government for hiring them. So that's kind of like an incentive as well to also invest in somebody's career and somebody's education. But right now, I have 2 employees. Well, I had 1 employee for a while, then I hired an employee for marketing, and she's really amazing. She's a new grad, but she stayed with me so far, so hopefully she stays for a while. And then I just hired just this week as an intern who will be, well, she's a student, but an intern who will be focused mainly on like social media and like, you know, things that I don't want to have to worry about anymore, right? So, and just administrative things, that operational, like Erika was saying, I don't really enjoy. I love talking about my business. I love ideation, but like sometimes I don't want to spend time like going to the storage because I want to like complete or check the inventory. Somebody else can do that. Like I can spend my time doing something else, right? So inventory count, or like chasing people for like payments, like sending an email to chase stores down, like, hey, where's our payment? Like, you know, things like that are administrative things that I don't want to have to, I can delegate, right? So I can spend time thinking about growing and expanding the business. So I would say, yeah, those are the 2 hires, and a lot of them, they don't even necessarily work in food or have learned food. Think about the skill set, think about their passion. When you're interviewing people, think about the passion that they have and the willingness to learn. And if they're able to learn, they can. So even if you want to get into the food industry, but you don't have, like maybe you studied business or you studied English, it doesn't matter. Don't let that stop you from applying for a job in the food industry. Like still, you know, go towards it, because to be honest, a lot of people I've hired didn't necessarily start or have any food experience.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Paul, you mentioned that you started the business with the mindset of creating jobs. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Yeah,
so right now I'm fairly lucky that, you know, over here at the farm, at Mataoki Farm, you know, we have a great relationship in creating this drink. So it's, you know, I'm lucky that I have friends that, you know, believe in what I'm doing and want to share in that dream. And So, like the deliveries that I have to go out and it's somewhere it's, where they live and, and I can't get to it because it's just not feasible. And they're going that way all the time. They take those drinks and they do those deliveries for me. I have one friend back home where I have another up by LA Lake. He's always messaging me, bro, you need help. What can I do for you? And I'm just lucky that I have, people like that right now in my startup phase that are just willing to help me. They want to see me successful. They want to see this take off. And, I'm lucky for that. So it's allowing me a little more freedom to build up those roots and be able to, put someone in place once it's done. I've done I'm doing all the legwork, so it's easier for them to get in that place. And like our friend said earlier, if you hire people on the skill set, that's going to be your higher turnover. But if you hire people for who they are, what they believe in and what they want to do or what they want to achieve, those are the people you want in place because they're willing to learn, they're willing to, hop in when they're needed to put out fires. I mean, that's, I never went to college, well, I went to culinary school, but it was years after, and I've been asked to, take, programs at schools because they like, my enthusiasm and for me, like college universities, they're looking to recruit you based off of the idea that, you're going to be someone big and they can talk about you and add you into the program. And it's like, for me, is it really worth it to do those things? I mean, I'd rather, I've learned on my own. I've learned through other people who have taken the opportunity on me. And that's how I want to do it. If someone shows that passion, they might not have been in the industry, but they have that passion. They want to be there. They want to learn. Those are the people you want to look for. Those are the people you want to hire. And ultimately, those are the people that are going to grow with you. And you're going to be like, hey, man, you helped me build this business. I want to give you a piece of it because you deserve to have, share in that growth. And I think that's, a mindset that, we've lost in this world. Everything's really corporate and greedy and only the people at the top, are supposed to be making the big bucks. And it's really shouldn't be like that. And I believe in, if people are going to help you build it up, like one of my first tattoos I got, is all these people standing in the circle. They're all at that same level, right? No one's above, no one's below. When you do that, you create a community, and that community, takes off and it survives, right? And that's really what I'm trying to build in my business. So when I'm looking for people, I'm looking for people that, want to be there. They believe in the story. They believe in the success that's going to happen, and they want to grow with you because, ultimately, at the end of the day, that's going to be their success too.
Yeah, it's so true. They feel invested. We've talked a lot about the struggles. You've mentioned a lot of detail, all three of you, about the ins and outs of the business. Let's we're getting close to the hour, so I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit. Lola, what's been the best thing about starting your business?
I would say the best thing about starting the business has just been the joy that same joy that I was able to give my coworkers who had never had African food on a small scale. Now I'm able to do it on a big scale, and strangers that I've never met or never touched are buying my product and like, oh my God, this is spicy, it's flavorful, it's different. I've never had anything like this before. Like when I see those reviews and those comments and people saying, oh my God, you have something cool here, or this is, I've never had peri-peri. And there's that joy that comes from like, okay, I am doing something, even if it's something small, I'm making a difference. And I think that really is what like keeps me going. And it's part of what is that little impact that you're making. It goes a long way.
Has there been one moment, like a day, literally something happened and you're like, this is all worth it?
A day. I would say that when a lady sent me a message and said she's African as well, and she said she's been wanting to start a food business, but she didn't even know it was possible. Like, if you're first generation and you've not seen somebody else do something like that, you don't have a cousin or somebody who you can look up to. The fact that people see that, oh, she's an immigrant and she's in Sobeys and she's in Whole Foods, so it's possible. A lot of people thought it wasn't possible. A lot of people thought, and I tell people, I'm like, it is hard to get into Whole Foods, but it's the easiest part. The hardest part is actually getting it off the shelf. Like people actually going into the store and buying the product, that is really difficult, right? So, but the fact that people are coming to me and saying, oh my God, like seeing you achieve that has made me start my business. And so many other African brands have started after they've seen me do it. And I think to me, it makes it all like, even if it super ends, God forbid, ends tomorrow, that impact that I have made is enough, to be honest. And I know that there'll be other African brands that will start and grow from there.
Erika, over to you.
It's kind of similar, and it kind of ties back to one of my mentors always says, lessons are caught, not taught. So people around you see what you're doing, and whether you believe it or not, like you have an effect on people, right? And I think like personal excellence is so important. And I think, I don't know, like I started my business initially because I was like, okay, I love this product, the market needs it. I want to be my own boss, like wanted to build my own schedule, make a lot of money, which I didn't pick the right industry for that. But I guess like for me, it's like through storytelling, like the impact that I'm creating just by like documenting my journey. Like I started this business out of my apartment. I had pretty much no money. I had no resources, no network. My parents didn't really understand what I was doing, but they kind of supported me. They were like, you're not going to bake it even. This is just going to be raw cookie dough. And, like people look at you like you're freaking crazy. But like, I remember packing orders in my driver's seat and like having cookie dough stored in the back of my car because I actually lived in Ottawa and it was like the perfect temperature for a freezer. So I think just like documenting the journey and like the mental health struggles as well along the way. Like I battled like depression and anxiety and eating disorders. And I've been very transparent about all of that stuff. And I think people forget that we're human at the end of the day. And like we all have these issues and we should openly talk about it and like have this conversation going. And through that, like I've been able to help people. And I didn't think I could, or I was able to. And even like walking a trade show last week, I had some people come up to me and they're like, I really appreciate what you do. Like, I don't think you realize how big of an impact you have on me. And like, I struggle with a lot of the same things you do. And thank you. And like, it actually like brought tears to my eyes, which was like, like that is what keeps me going at the end of the day, I think, is just the impact. And I want more people to feel this, like building your own life and like creating something, whether it be service-based or product-based or whatever, that people use and love. Like there's no better feeling. And I could have all the money in the world working a 9-to-5 job, but I don't think it would fulfill me the same way that this does. And the people in this industry are so giving and so knowledgeable. And it just feels like the puzzle pieces all fit together with this industry for me. So I guess that's it in a nutshell.
I love that. Paul, last word to you. I'm trying to be respectful of everyone's time. I know you are crazy busy, so I'm going to keep to the 11 o'clock.
Yeah. So, it's the same, we do this for that experience of what people see, and what they come back to us with. And that's what keeps us going. Because on those days where you're like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Someone comes and is like, this is what you've done for me, or this is what your product's done for me. And that saves you, and it gives you that little bit of light and says, yeah, you know what, I got to keep going. And I've had people tell me, oh, you're so lucky, with what you're doing. And I'm like, you know what, there's no such thing as luck in this world unless you get out there and you create it. Unless you get off that couch and you get out that door, luck isn't going to find you. You got to go chase luck. That's what our dream is. And if that's what lucky is, I'm going to keep working hard to keep hitting it. You know what I mean? As an Indigenous person, it's hard to get on those shelves because Pepsi owns the fridge, Coke owns the fridge. And so you're fighting for fridge space. But then, when people see my product that we created and we got on that store shelves, they see that Indigenous artwork and they see us taking up space on that shelf. It's possible. It's really possible. And it's such a beautiful thing to really, that's the thing right now that gets me is when I see my product taking up space on shelf and people are buying it. And like you said, it's hard to get them to buy it when it's first there because they've never heard of you, so you're doing everything you can to get seen, be heard, and make that splash. And, it's a beautiful thing once you're on that shelf, but the next hardest thing is getting them to take it off there. And, You know, like, so right now I'm just taking up space and I'm making sure that people are seeing me. And I know once they see it, once they try it, you know, that's going to start coming off the shelf. They're going to tell people about it. And that's just how the cycle goes.
And then you fly. You're all amazing. You're all leaders. You know, I can't thank you enough for participating today. We really need stories like each of yours to make an impact, not just in the food industry. I mean, it is so important, but just in general, I think we need voices like yours. So I'm so grateful. Erika, you've done quite a few things as well. I think you all have. Maybe Paul, I know you did a blog with Charisse and the other members of the Careers Now team. We're so grateful for your time. We know you're so busy. So to do this, again, it just shows your character that you want to give back and you want to support others, even though you've got so much you could be doing right now, which I get. So thank you so much. Look for this recording. It should be available as soon as we're done. And please feel free to share it with your own networks. And have a great rest of the day and week.
Awesome.
And Thanksgiving.
Miigwech so much.
You.
We'll see you again.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.